Okay, I think I'm live. Hi, everybody. Dr. Patti Ashley here. Oh my gosh. Um, those of you who know me know this tech stuff is always challenging. Um, so I'm live on Facebook Live, and not sure if my post that I sent earlier is connected to this or not. But anyway, um, let me know if you're here. And yeah, today I want to talk about Mary Magdalene. So where do I begin? um, well, it's Good Friday, and not that I'm a practicing Catholic anymore. I was raised Catholic, 12 years of Catholic school, lived across the street from the church and the school, 8 years, Christ the King. Hi, Gabriella. Thanks for being here. Thanks for letting me know you're here. Um, Feel free to ask any questions if you have any as I'm going through. Hi, Trisha. Um, as I'm just gonna talk. I have a lot of words, as my beloved Lawrence Freedom would say. Um, yeah, so no longer a practicing Catholic for many reasons, but um, I grew up learning about the stories of Jesus. I don't know. Anyway, the Mary Magdalene thing to me always felt like a mystery, like kind of odd. And I don't know, I was always curious about it. And then in about seventh or eighth grade, Sister Claire started a contemporary folk group. And that was so fun. My father had died when I was in sixth grade, and then I got involved in the church group seventh to eighth grade, and also took guitar lessons with Sister Claire and didn't do so great with all that, but still trying to learn. But I love singing, and at that time, Jesus Christ Superstar came out. So, um, and Godspell, and we would sing a lot of those songs in the services at church, and it was a lot of fun. So I know all the words to all the songs, and um, several years ago, they did a recent play version, live version, and it was on Easter Sunday a few years ago. And Sarah Bareilles and John Legend played Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and that's a great version. And so I, yeah, I think I got real curious about Mary Magdalene when I was writing my first book, Living in the Shadow of the Too Good Mother Archetype, and doing prior to that was doing my doctoral dissertation on women not feeling good enough. And I was really curious about what was going on. Why am I hearing so many stories about women not feeling adequate? It is this continuous story that I kept hearing from people about, I can't get it right. Everybody else knows how to do this parenting thing but me, and yada, yada, yada. So I ended up doing my doctoral dissertation on that. And around all that time, I also decided to make it a book, and which came out 6, 7 years ago. But the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown had come out, and I went straight to the metaphysical bookstore in Boulder and got just about every nonfiction book I could find on Mary Magdalene, because I felt like I'm not a big fiction reader. I don't like, um, I just want to get to the meat of things. So I went and I got particularly Margaret Starbird. I liked her work because she was also raised Catholic, and so her perspective came from, I really wanted to wrap my head around this, and some scholarly research around who, was in fact Mary Magdalene married to Jesus. And she discovered that for her, she believes it's true, and actually so do I at this point. But we also had the Dead Sea Scrolls that were found, and the Gnostic Gospels, and all the references that were coming out, that were being discovered and uncovered about the story. And I thought, wow, aha, light bulb. Is this, we look at, if we look at an archetype, so an archetype is a collective symbol of something that we all understand. So if I look at Mary Magdalene as an archetype, I see a woman who was cut out of a 2000 plus year story. um, that was probably important as far as who she was and what she had to say, and her partnership with um, Yeshua, and her, you know, I believe she came from the goddess lineage of Isis, and the mystery schools. So, I believe she was the keeper of some deep wisdom, and side by side with Jesus or Yeshua, um, she was a teacher. And so, here we have this story, back to the archetype, that kind of got changed into, there were men, the men, we look at religion and we see the men, and we look at culturally, so many cultures that have cut out women and suppressed women. And then I look at the Inquisition, and the torturing to the third degree midwives, simply for birthing babies. They were accused of being witches. And, the witch hunts in Salem, and how many years women have been burned at the stake and drowned and beheaded and called witches. And why is that? Well, I read a ton of stuff, and I have a bunch of ideas about the fear of the feminine, and, what the feminine means. And also, these days it's really hard to talk about gender. It's hard to talk about religion. It's hard to talk about race. It's hard to talk about politics, because there's so much um, activated in our nervous systems around all that, because there's been so much discrimination and so much wounding in in our DNA, in our ancestral DNA, around the suppression. Let's talk in relation to Mary Magdalene, the suppression of the feminine. So to me, she's an archetype of that. And the message that her and Jesus were trying to teach, I believe, is what it would mean to have a different type of power, rather than the power and force, which is what we see so much today. People trying to get power and control, external power and control over other people, instead of what is this internal power of our intuition and our compassion and our connection to ourselves and other people. And I think that's what's been cut off. And so my work as a therapist, and all of my books, then, my book on grief, Letters to Freedom, and then my new book on shame, and the work that I'm working on around all that, all kind of goes together. Because I'm thinking, I try to find the research-based evidence-based research to back up the what I teach therapists about shame, in right brain psychotherapy and the polyvagal theory. And, I went and I dug up all the brain research and the neuroscience. And my takeaway from all that, my big aha from all that, was um, how a lot of this is what Mary Magdalene was teaching, because the right brain is our emotional, intuitive side. And, when we go back to the old 18th century parenting, poisonous parenting pedagogies, where we're supposed to break the will of the child, beat the devil out of them, do as I say, not as I do, you should be ashamed of yourself, all came from those misinterpreted biblical texts written by the men. So I don't think, again, it's about men and women, and it's about gender as much as it's about our feeling function, our ability to have compassion and connection, and intuition. My cat's agreeing. Um, so that's what's been cut off. My daughter and I just facilitated a 3-week book group on Glennon Doyle's book Untamed, and she talks so much about feeling all the feelings, and why is it we've cut that off? She said, I feel like um, I learned that happy is a feeling, but pain is something we're supposed to fix. And I think that yeah, that's where we lose our connection, is when we lose our ability to feel sorrow, which is a part of the human condition. And of course, many of you know my experience of grief, losing my father at 11, and then my fiance, the same way, to a sudden heart attack, and writing my other book. I have them in front of me, Letters to Freedom. Um, because I felt like that was an important story to talk about. Like, what do we do with this deep, deep, deep sorrow? So today's Good Friday. And even though, again, I'm not a practicing Catholic anymore or practice any religion, um, I would say I'm more of a hermetic Christian. I've just been reading about what that actually means, which really means there is no external someone that I follow. It's more of an inner journey. And that's what Mary Magdalene is to me. And so again, archetypes are things we connect to, and rituals are things we connect to. And I did love that about the Catholic Church, is the ritual, and also the Blessed Mother. I grew up with my mother and grandmother saying the Rosary, and I actually now make Mary Magdalene rosary beads if anyone's interested in that. Margaret Starbird um, kind of restrung her rosary beads in honor of Mary Magdalene, and so I've been making them for myself and other people, um, to honor, this archetype of the suppression of the feminine, and to restore the feminine, and to go in again. It's that inner journey of inner power and prayer. Um, so again, whenever we talk about religion and gender and all those things, people get so pokey, and so I stopped actually talking about Mary Magdalene for a while because of that, because I felt like um, words escape me in terms of how to explain the story. And that's the thing, the right brain develops before the left brain, and the first 3 years is the most important time in our brain development. And yet, if you think about a newborn baby who has no language, a lot of this is nonverbal. So the feelings that get set up in our body around feeling love and feeling trust and feeling cared for and nurtured and connection, and how all that relates to Brene Brown's work around shame. Shame she defines as the feeling of being tragically flawed and unworthy of love and belonging. All that gets set up, even in utero, and it's nonverbal. And so that's the teasing out of my work that I'm doing as a clinician. And when I really feel into it, I feel Mary Magdalene. And like when I teach shame informed treatment certification training to psychologists, I don't really talk about Mary Magdalene. I feel her though underneath the words. So anyway, I'm talking about her today because, well, first of all, it's Good Friday, so let me circle back around to where I was going with all that is, again, symbols, metaphors, rituals. Even though I don't practice anymore, there's something about Good Friday that has meaning to me, which is the crucifixion, which is the fact that here was this man, and who knows what the story is. We all have our own stories, right? But I do believe that Jesus was a really important teacher of unconditional love, and he didn't necessarily, like, I love the way he would say, if he would talk about what he believed in, and people didn't want to listen, he'd brush the dirt from his feet and walk on. So he wasn't one that was trying to recruit people to follow him. He was simply sharing what he believed. And I wonder, my story is, I wonder how much Mary Magdalene and him did that together, or, how much, I don't know. Who knows what happens? But anyway, Good Friday to me represents the crucifixion. And the fact that he died to let die what needed to die, which is this power and control. And it was just a beautiful surrender to that, and brutally beautiful surrender. Um, so, I have a hard time watching any of the, stories around, the historical story of the crucifixion, because I get so stricken. And so I imagine what that must have been like for Mary Magdalene if, in fact, she was his wife. Now, of course, we talk about the Blessed Mother. I was raised, with the Mother Mary grieving, of course, that too, grieving the loss of your son. That's what I was raised to know about. And then there's this mystery woman, Mary Magdalene, who apparently, was the first one to see him arise from the dead. Um, this other Mary, but both these Marys, representing the archetype of women, mother and lover, not virgin and whore, as sometimes depicted, but mother and lover as a woman, as archetype of a woman, um, and so having lost my fiance, having lost my father, and having experienced grief, I know it all too well. And I gave myself permission after I realized that all depression is unexpressed grief. When I was 30 years old, I had a huge aha from a professor in my first graduate program. And I dove deeply into grief and what it means in terms of bringing us more fully to life. And the truth is, you can't go around it. You have to go through it. And so my thought this week is more walk, less talk. We try and talk people out of their feelings and make them feel better. Like, Glennon Doyle says, happy is a feeling, but pain is meant to be fixed. But really, if we can walk through someone through their pain and their grief and their sorrow, um, it will bring them more fully to life. We can't fix it. So when I think of Mary Magdalene's grief, mm, wow. And then there's also the story about maybe Jesus didn't really die, and the story is that he died and rose from the dead, but what if it was a political, I've read so many different stories, and I honestly don't retain a lot of detail. I take in what is useful for me and I leave the rest. But there are stories out there that say that it was a political um, thing, and that, the reason that they broke his leg, Jesus's leg, instead of putting the sword through his ribs, which is what they typically would do in the crucifixion, um, is so that he wouldn't he wouldn't die, um, and that when the vinegar was really just uh, anesthesia to put him to sleep. Again, who knows what the real story is? But my sense is that, possibly he didn't really die. He was buried. He, comes out of the anesthesia, on which we see as the resurrection. And then I believe that they traveled to the south of France. Um, Jesus possibly went with him. Um, so what I did a few years ago with my dear friend Junia Gale Amel, who leads Divine Adventures, is we took a trip to southern France, to some of the places where the stories say they may have fled to after the crucifixion. And I did that because I really feel, again, this whole right brain is we have to feel into experiences and not think so much. Again, more walk, less talk. Here I am talking for a while about it, but again, words escape me when I try and speak to this. So I wanted people to go to these sacred sites where they believe Mary Magdalene lived, and possibly Jesus and their children and their child. And again, no one really knows the true story. So we met an amazing tour guide, Annika Cormans, and her husband Peter, who Barnica Travel in southern France. And Annika has studied um, the Hermetic traditions, and she's written 3 books, and they're historical fiction, so to speak, kinds of books. And I really resonated with what she shared with us, and things such as, maybe John, Mary Magdalene was John, you know, um, because the men were more respected as teachers. So a lot of the Gospel of John, could have been Mary Magdalene. And again, we don't know the true story, but my takeaway of all of this is, if we, in fact, don't restore the feminine, not gender feminine, but right brain feeling function, compassion, imagination, connection, we're going to destroy the planet, right? We already are. Um, that's why the T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland is about how the earth dies, and that's what when we lose the Holy Grail. I mean, Margaret Starboard talks about the Holy Grail being the feminine, and we're searching for the Holy Grail. The story of the bloodline, and again, there's so many stories, so many ways people have written and connected to the Mary Magdalene story. For me, it's let's restore unconditional love, heart, meaning, connection. And that's the only way we're gonna save this planet and save, the shooting that just happened in Boulder last week. And then there was a shooting in my hometown of Virginia Beach a couple nights later. People were dying, all the school shootings. I think I looked it up. There have been 229 deaths in school shootings since Columbine. And I think, what's going on? what where yeah, get gun yeah, we need to take away the guns. We also need to explore the need to have the gun, and the need to feel the need to express that much anger and hatred, that it would go to the degree of harming another human being. We're the only species that kill each other for no good reason. um and so to me, that's why. So during the pandemic, I created a course called Go In Not Out. That's free and it's on my website. Um, because I felt like, boy, wow, talk about going inward versus, inner control versus outer control. And what an opportunity for people in this time of having to stay home and shelter in place a year ago, um, to really pay attention to these things. And, I witness people in my work, as a therapist, as we're, starting to do my work online and talking to people over the phone and walking people through the grief of the pandemic, and the challenge of not having the usual things to go and do. Um, and my inner journey, I clearly heard Mary Magdalene in many of my meditations come to me with just little messages of why it's so important to pay attention to what her and Jesus were teaching. And I thought, I got to start talking about her again. I again, I don't know how, because I don't think it's verbal, which is again my work with shame. I say that too. It's like, it's nonverbal. I'm trying to give language to things that are nonverbal. And as I said at the beginning, I have a lot of words, and Sometimes it's hard to find words. So, what I've been working on as a result of my inner journey in the pandemic and my reconnection with the importance of the Mary Magdalene archetype for everyone, not just women, but for everyone. I mean, I don't care what gender you are, gender, transgender, gender fluidity, gender, how you identify, what your gender identity is. We all have inner experiences of feeling and intuition and logic and reason, which is right, left brain, masculine, feminine. Again, it's a language, it's a word. And I have a hard time saying I'm trying to restore the feminine, you know, because then it becomes about gender. And I really want to emphasize it's not about gender, it's not about religion. So, that being said, it's about restoring our emotional, intuitive, feeling, creative side, and not cutting it off and oppressing it, and having our logical side take over with stories of trying to continue to get external control because obviously it's not working anymore. It hasn't been working. And I think that's what Jesus was trying to teach everybody is like, come on, let's love each other a little bit more, right? So anyway, I decided to ask Tanya Torres, who is an incredible artist, if she would collaborate with me on a project of a card deck where some of these messages that I feel Mary Magdalene and Jesus were trying to teach us could be put on a daily meditation card. I love cards. Those of you who've been in my office and worked with me know that I have inspirational card decks like on every table in my home and my office. Animal cards, angel cards, goddess cards, tarot cards, all kinds of cards. And they've really helped me in my journey along the way where I will, pick a card and there's again a symbol and an archetype. Like I was saying, Mary Magdalene's an archetype. Good Friday is, there's some symbolism to it. It's the day we let things die. Jesus died. So what are we letting die today? That's the question I asked myself. What am I letting die today? What are you letting die today? What do you want to die so that something new, which is Easter Sunday and the resurrection, can emerge? We have all kinds of mythology, we think about um, the phoenix rising from the ashes. A lot of the religious traditions were actually, a lot of the pieces were taken from the pagan practices. Even the rosary, I've been making the rosary beads, and I found this book, the Way of the Rose or something. Historically, the rosary beads were goddess worship, where they would string flowers together and honor the goddess. Um, so anyway, all of these traditions and rituals and archetypes again activate the right brain because we feel something in the metaphor. And so Good Friday and Easter, again, I don't practice it in religion anymore, but I feel the archetype of what is it I'm letting die today? And what is it I want to resurrect? So this card deck, um, I really wanted to take the the feeling I get and looking at Tanya's art and create something that people could feel by looking at an image and then maybe reading a little message. So I'll show you the images in a minute, but here it is. Here's the proposal that's going out hopefully in the next week or so to a publisher that's interested in publishing it. And you can see there's 45 cards and they have different messages. For instance, ask, attention, brave, branch out, children, clarity. So Tanya sent me 45 of her images, which are so beautiful. And I'm going to show you a few of them here. This one is in a way that's clear. So if you're still with me over here, I want you to, this is how I did this. She sent me these beautiful images. And I would look at an image and I would feel something related to um, what I feel Mary Magdalene is about. And so I would give the image a word, and then I would write a little bit about what I felt Mary Magdalene would say about that word, and then what would be a short affirmation you could take with you for the rest of the day. Because what I've learned about rewiring the right brain is repetition, 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 and feeling into. So I'm going to ask you, those of you who are here, Trisha and Gabriella, um, is there a word, just one word, when you look at this card? Just one word. I'm going to put it in the chat if you're still here, if anyone's here. Um, one word. And then I'll tell you my word and read what I wrote. But I'm curious. Nobody? Nobody? Okay. All right. Well, the word I gave this one is trust, because, you know, I putting together what I'm doing with, you know, my evidence-based work around shame and neurobiology, um, with what I feel. You know, we talk about Erickson's stages of psychosocial development. In the very first 2 years of life, it's trust versus mistrust. And so again, you can see in this card, and I'm glad this one was on the top here, because Tanya sent these photos to me. They're obviously not the card yet, they're just photos. But so I could get the high resolution image. And again, it's really hard to see without the glare. But you know, when I saw her holding this child, you know, it made me feel into that experience of the first, um, the early brain development of being held. You know, I work a lot with that with people. It's like, you know, and I really feel like if we look at what happens with people when they get so reactive, is there's a need to restore some of that feeling of trust in their body. Again, not verbal. Love, 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 and growth. Yeah, yeah. You know, I have a growth card, and I have true love card. This one I named as trust, but you get the idea. Thanks for sharing that word, Gab, words that come for you. Tanya is amazing. I have to say, she nurturing. Yeah, she when I finally, you know, asked her if she wanted to do this with me, and she said she did, you know, and we've been working on this project, and hopefully we're going to get it published soon in the next few months. But she was saying, I want light. When I was painting these Magdalens, I wanted light to come through. And I that's exactly what I feel when I look at your paintings, which is why I'm so drawn to them. Because to me, I think they're like modern day. I call them modern day, almost abstract Mary Magdalenes, as opposed to some of the old historical paintings that you see. And I really wanted these messages to be um, modern Mary Magdalene messages. So I call this one trust. Let me see if I can find it in here, and I'll tell you what I wrote. This was quite a journey for me. Here it is, the words. This is what's going to the publisher, hopefully this week. So the little message, so the what's going to happen, we think, is the card will have maybe just the word trust, and then you'll go to the guidebook and you'll read this message. So I put, what keeps you from trusting is your fear that something bad might happen. This fear keeps you separate from your inner wisdom. In order to access your feminine intuition, you must surrender and trust me. Fall into my arms and know that all is well. You are loved, guided, and protected always. Even when things are hard and seem to be going wrong, you are safe. I will not abandon you, my child. I am always with you. And then the affirmation that people would take away would be, I'm held in the arms of unconditional love. And so that would be what you would repeat throughout the day, and then always, if you have this card, I'm held in the arms of unconditional love. Trust, I trust, So again, what we're doing is we're trying to rewire, and this is, here we go into the modern day neurobiology. It's actually rewiring the brain. When we look at the cards, we feel the cards, we imagine the cards, we imagine that feeling, and then we repetition with the short affirmation. And the title of this is Mary Magdalene and Sarah. So the whole idea, people are thinking that Jesus and Mary had a daughter named Sarah. Again, there's a lot of different stories. Some people think they have a lot of children, but Sarah's the one that we hear about the most. So that is Tanya's title for this one. So yeah, let me see what else is popping up here. I'm just going through the images. This one, isn't that gorgeous? You can see the light. Ooh, yeah. And I don't know about that one. What is that one? It's either fire or hang on, sorry. Should have prepared more. It is fire. Yeah, fire. Here we go. Fire. I'll hold it up while I read it too. Fire is the only element that completely transforms you. Whatever you put into a fire will surely change form. Heat will burn you up. Heat will burn up what you need to let die. Write down on little pieces of paper things you're ready to release. Bless them and put them into a fire to burn. Then allow whatever it is you want to manifest. To manifest in your heart. And the affirmation is fire. Excuse me. Fire transforms and allows me to shine. So this is a great card too. I'm gonna probably stop with this one. I might show you a couple more, but I won't read any more, just because I have to wait for the deck to come out. This is a great one. I'm actually thinking about that tonight too, as a fire pit and burning some of the things that I want to let die on this Good Friday. So I love that. It's a ritual that I use a lot in my workshops and stuff, is to just put on a piece of paper what you want to let die. So this is the fire card. Here, I'll just show you a few more of her beautiful, beautiful paintings. This one is the inner marriage of the masculine and feminine aspects of ourself. I actually tried to paint this myself, and I have it hanging up. It's not nearly as pretty as hers, but she, on her website, sells her prints, and if you buy one of her prints, she sends you these coloring pages, which is really fun. So you can color some of the images. I love that. And this one is prayer. So anyway, and this is the Holy Grail. So my last one, since it's Good Friday, is the Holy Grail. Again, in the search for the feminine. There's so many symbols in here, like the yellow rose, is symbolic, and the alabaster jar. One of Margaret Starboard's books is The Woman with the Alabaster Jar, which is thought to be the Holy Grail. Yeah, there's so many mysteries and so many stories and so many ways we can describe Mary Magdalene, and everybody has a different story. And and then even when we went to France, we went to Marseille, where they believe that Mary Magdalene's body is buried. And I'm not sure I believe that was true, even though that's the story that everyone tells. I'm not sure Annika does either. It was a very Christian based tour guide that took us to those places, and it didn't necessarily feel authentic to me. And again, and this is what Annika says, nobody really knows the true story. and she shares what she believes, and I resonate with her so much. And hopefully, I have a reservation for Retreat Center, Rennes Chateau, the base of Rennes Chateau, which is a pretty well known Mary Magdalene spot in overlooking the Pyrenees, um, in August of 2022. So I'll be sending out a lot more about that going forward. But I'm hoping, things open up with COVID and everything, that we can do this trip again. Um, it's truly, truly amazing. Um, so yeah, I guess I could stop talking for a little bit. There's so much more I could say about Mary Magdalene. Um, but I did want to talk about, how I imagined her grief. I wanted to talk about grief and shame and authenticity, which is what my work is all about. And also just invite you to imagine Good Friday as a day to let die that is in you, that may need to die and be born again and resurrected into, yeah, as Gabriella says, the fresh start on Sunday. Which is why Easter is just so pretty, all the bright colors, everything new. I think we all need something new in this COVID. But again, it's an inner journey. Um, Go in, not out is also the free course on my website if anyone's interested. Thank you all for joining me. And I don't know if there's any questions or comments before I say goodbye today. Anybody? Okay. Okay. I can't help it. I'll do one more. I'll do one more. Okay, let's do brave. Sarah Bareilles, I posted, I don't have the actual card of this one, though, to share with you, but I'll read it. I posted Sarah Bareilles singing, I Don't Know How to Love Him when I was promoting this Facebook Live. And she, again, and John Legend had done the Jesus Christ Superstar play a couple years ago. But I love Sarah Bareilles a lot, and one of her songs is Brave. So, on that note, here's Brave. Brave. So, I don't have the color photo of this one for you. She didn't send it to me, but these are some of her dark Magdalenes. She also has painted some with dark skin. I didn't even talk about this, but the Black Madonna, and our shadow aspects of self. And Trisha's like, oh, one more. I know, I wish I had the color one to go with it, but I just want to read Brave and leave you all with Brave because I think we all need to be brave right now. Brave not in a way that we do dangerous things, but brave in a way that we really go in, not out, and we find that compassion, imagination, courage, connection, our sea shovels, as I talk about, courage, connection, compassion, curiosity, and be brave. So, I see how brave you are and how you strive to be the best you can be. It takes courage to live in this world today. Stand strong and know you are never alone. Sometimes we have to make decisions that go against what others want for us in order to be authentic and true. Trust yourself. Be brave. And the affirmation is, I am brave. And again, here's the black and white photo of it. Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's like blue in there. It's just so nice. Anyway, I could go on and on, and I'm so excited about the deck. Gabrielle is saying, I would like to ask about the loss of the mother. When you do not think you have done enough? Oh, yeah. Thanks, Gabrielle. That's a really good question. Right. Right. Okay. It's the suppression of the feminine. And again, this is, yeah, you're trying to tie it back into my first book, Living in the Shadow of the Too Good Mother Archetype. And again, it's hard to find words, right? It's like if we were talked out of our feelings and we were taught that feelings were bad. And yeah, it's a lot. I'm actually probably going to do a course on Zoom in the next couple months about it, Gabriella, so stay tuned. But um, yeah, the connection I made is, women have been silenced for so long. The feeling function has been cut off for so long in this need to have external power and control that women stepping into the role of mothers during the feminist movement, and we're trying to find a sense of how to do it right. Also, all the child development information that was coming out and telling moms that they, had been doing it all wrong and they have to relearn a new way. And I realized, and that's why, as you've done these workshops with me. I wanted to have experiential activities where people can go into the feeling aspects of these themes of women not feeling good enough, because it really is, that's how we restore this ability to rewire the right brain and feel good enough. But we're trying to do it in this logical way, and that's why women would say the more books I read, the worse I feel, because we're still in this wounded intellectualization instead of in the feeling aspect of healing, that sense of connectedness and belonging, and the opposite of shame, which is being our authentic self, being congruent. That's why I looked up on Wikipedia this week, the definition of authenticity, and it was the ability to be congruent with one's desires regardless of the opinions of other people. And I think that it's this congruency that we've lost, we've disconnected, and we've created all these ideas of what we ought to be or should be. So mothers have had a really hard time, and still are having a really hard time with, how do I be congruent and authentic and meet my children's needs? It's big, it's huge. So, good question, long answer. Um, but I hope I gave you a little bit of a piece of an answer. So, thank you all again for joining me. If there isn't anything else, I'm going to say goodbye. Hopefully, my technology is all worked up until this point. All right. Thank you all for joining me. And, let die what must die. And happy Easter.